All right, so hopefully you guys can see me, you can hear me well. I'm gonna do something a little bit different. This is different than what I've normally done in the group. So what I wanted to do was I asked you guys to, if anybody wanted to volunteer, get ready for summer. So essentially we're on March 25th right now. And if you needed a plan for summer, anybody who volunteered and answered a series of questions, basically like a short mini intake form, I wanted to, from scratch, as if they were a paying client, exactly how I would onboard them and coach them or create their customized plan. And hopefully it's helpful for you guys. So if you guys, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little peek over my shoulder so that you can kind of see how I would formulate or customize this plan for this individual. So this was something that I kind of thought about, and hopefully it's helpful. Those of you that either don't have a plan or are currently on your plan, you just kind of want to like double check, make sure you're doing the things that actually move the needle for you. I hope this can help. So, thank you, Eric. Actually, a lot of you guys said, and I could do more than one too, but I'm going to do Eric's right now. So I sent over Eric a series of questions. He was nice enough to allow me to be able to share this. And so real quick, what I'm going to do here is just so I don't have to go back and forth into this DM message here. I'm just going to copy this over and then we're going to create his plan literally right here. Okay. So I don't know why I copied like that, but all right. Anyways, we're going to go. And so we're in March right now, March, and end of March, April, May, June, July. So we're going to call this a 4 month program, or we'll say 16-week program. Okay. So this is uh, for Eric. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to, and this, I'm going to give him both a nutrition protocol and workouts and kind of just the whole nine here and show you how I go about doing it. And so let's go over the first thing. So Eric Herrera, he's 26, he's 5'10, he's 229. His goal is to get to like the 175-ish range, right? Was what he mentioned. So his primary goal, based on him telling me that, would be fat loss. However, what's your main goal? He put recomposition, which I love that too, right? So recomp is my specialty. That's what I love doing. Losing body fat and building muscle. Now, you can do both at the same time, right? Like that's essentially recomposition in a nutshell. You're literally losing body fat and you're building muscle. However, when you do recomp, if you're coming from a position of not having a lot of muscle mass on you in the first place or an adequate amount, it's extremely difficult and it's a very, very slow process. So when somebody like him in his position, Eric, like when in your position that you're coming from, you also mentioned that you're currently training 0 days right now, right? So, which is totally fine. Like you are getting the ball rolling and you're being proactive and you're volunteering here to get yourself a plan. But since you're training 0 days a week right now, currently, although your goal is recomposition, I'd nudge you in the direction of fat loss first, right? So we can make a dent in that area and you can start getting some momentum. You can start getting some wins. You can lose some body fat. And then from there, I would transition you into primarily a focus more so on muscle building, right? So I would run the first 4 to 8 to potentially 12 weeks in a fat loss phase, right? So I'm going to put that fat loss phase for 8 to 12 weeks. The reason there's a span there is because it's solely dependent on your rate of progress, how you're doing energy wise, like a whole lot of things go into that. But I'm just going to give you an overall arching thing. And then I would say, let's say you push to the far end. You went 12 weeks on a fat loss phase, and then you transitioned into establishing your maintenance. I would say then establish maintenance via a reverse diet, which that's just all that is a gradual build in calories. Okay. And I don't want to go into too specifics, but I also want to give you a ton of value on here and give you everything that you possibly need. If you have more questions, you can obviously ask. But so I'd go fat loss phase. That essentially is a caloric deficit, right? So we want to make sure we're putting you in a caloric deficit. So your first thing I would have you do is what I have everybody do is track your calorie. intake for the next 7 days, right? The reason I have you do seven is so that you include weekends on there too, right? People are like, oh, I'm dialed Monday through Friday, but then I kind of let the guardrails loose on the weekend. So the most important thing with this is to not change up your diet when you're recording. You can use MyFitnessPal, right? Okay, so track your calories, intake for the next 7 days, including weekends, right? Then first, I would recommend you to be in a fat loss phase, then establish a maintenance via reverse diet, gradual build in calories until you establish your new maintenance, right? And I'll show you how to do that. And then I'd put you in a muscle building phase, which would essentially be a slight surplus in calories, right? We're talking 10% surplus from your maintenance, right? I'll put percentages on these just so you understand what I'm talking about. Fat loss phase caloric deficit, roughly that's about a 15%. Okay. And I'm just, again, this might not mean anything right now, but I'm just making mental notes out. I'm literally just doing this on the spot, on the fly. This is how as if you were coming on as a new client, right? And I know as basically as little information as I send over to these handful of questions here. Um, okay, so we're going to do our fat loss phase, then establish maintenance via reverse diet, right? Which is essentially just adding 100 to 150 calories every week or biweekly, right? A very gradual process to get you back up to a maintenance. And then once you've established that maintenance, transition into a muscle building phase, which would put you in a surplus of about 10%. So you're taking your new maintenance calories and you're adding 10% to that. And you can run that. This can be for as long as you want, right? The longer, the better. Because the more you focus on building muscle, right? And this is kind of just a side note, the more you focus on building muscle, the better your metabolism, the easier fat loss, the healthier you are, etc. The list goes on, right? So you make your process easier by putting more lean muscle tissue on your body, right? So that's just kind of a side note. So let's just keep going down the list here. So your goal, we kind of got your layout, your format of exact like your roadmap, right? Like I'd take you through a fat loss phase for your first 8 to 12 weeks, get you some wins, get you measuring your waist at the belly button. Okay, so I'll put these little notes in here as well. Measure weight and go by weekly average. Okay. So I'd go multiple days a week. You don't have to go every day, but more is better than one. And you weigh yourself at the same time every day under the same conditions, wearing the same clothes or no clothes, right? Or lack thereof, but you're just consistent with that. Um, I always recommend doing it in the morning, first thing after you use the restroom, boom, hop on the scale, right? And then you'll take your weekly average. So across 7 days, tally those up, however many days you weighed yourself, divide by the number of days you weighed yourself. That's your weekly average because we're going by trends, right? You don't want to go by one time that you measured yourself during the week and then you do it again the next week and that particular day you might have fluctuated up just maybe higher inflammation, more water retention, et cetera. There's a bunch of different things, how well your stress management was, cortisol levels, all this stuff goes into it. But to keep it as simple as possible, you just want to tally and track your weekly averages to see how you're progressing, right? um, Now, let's get some specifics about putting you into a caloric deficit. One of the simplest things that you can do, let me try to move this thing here, is you can go to tdecalculator.net. That's an easy one for people to go to. It's just a calorie calculator. Again, you're putting in your metrics here. You're 26. I think you're currently 230. I believe you're 5'10. Sedentary, boom. Okay, so you don't have to put in body fat or anything like that. Let me just make sure I have these right metrics. Yeah, 229, 5'10, 26. Okay. Boom, recalculate. Okay, so these two things are important. BMR, your basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories you consume or that is required for you to be able to maintain your current physique, stature, body, etc. Literally just at rest. So doing zero activity. So your caloric intake is 2,000 calories, right? Sedentary, you should be well above it. That's you going about your day. Even if you're not working out right now, this is you just doing basic bodily functions functioning throughout your day, right? So like this is walking, this is interacting with people, this is any sort of movement. This is you just going about your day, including movement, right? So that's a little bit higher than your basal metabolic rate. This one is if you're at rest completely, like in bed, not doing anything, in order for your body to stay functioning, eyes blinking, breathing, digesting, staying alive, your heart pumping blood, right? That's 2,000 calories for you. So I'll just put that as a side note for you. Anybody else following along that you can do that as well. These are some good metrics to know. BMR roughly for you is 2,000 calories. Okay. So we know our maintenance should be above that, right? So if we're not including activity in that number, think of these calories or this caloric intake as fuel. Fuel is energy, right? Energy, food is energy, food is fuel. So we're going to need above that to be able to establish our maintenance. So let's say, just hypothetically, I don't know what your current intake is. I'm just going to say, let's just throw it out there. Let's just say you're over 3,000 calories, right? So we'll say, um, guessing for current intake is 3,000 calories. Okay, cool. So now we know we're eating in a surplus because you also mentioned you're sedentary as far as your steps are concerned. So you're 600 calories over your estimated maintenance here. And again, these are estimations. These are starting points. We don't know until you actually do it, right? So this is just going to give us a general starting point. So let's say you're currently so you did your 7 days and you came back to me and you're like, Matt, my average for 7 days, and I included the good, bad, ugly, all of it, I was eating 3,000 calories. I'm like, okay, cool. That puts us in a fairly good surplus right now. So it's safe to say that you can go into a fat loss phase, right? Boom. I give you the green check mark, pass. If you came back to me and you're like, Matt, I'm eating 1,800 calories, and I've tried every diet under the sun. I've been chronically dieting. My energy levels are terrible. I'm extremely irritable at night. I'm restless. I can't go to sleep. My anxiety's through the roof. Like my hair's falling out, like all these extreme scenarios. I would jump you right before we do anything else. I'd jump you more into a reverse diet, right? I'd work on building your calories back up. So you would skip your fat loss phase because you have some repairing to do. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that's not the case, right? That is for somebody, some people, but let's just say that's not the case for you. You're eating well above. You're at 3,000 calories. Okay, cool. You tracked your calorie for 7 days using MyFitnessPal, the free version. You guys don't have to use the paid version. Okay, now it's time to take you into your fat loss phase, right? So, what I would do is let's just take 15% of this, right? So, let's go because right now that's technically your maintenance, right? So 3,000 times 15% would be minus 450. So let's just say 3,000 minus 450 would put you at 2,550. Let's just call it 2,500 calories. Okay. So I'd put you at 2,500 calories to start. Okay. So starting calories is, what did I say? 2,500. Okay. It's 2,550, but for the sake of argument, it's easier. 25. I like rounded numbers easier. Okay. And now, so your goal is again weekly averages, right? So if one day you're at 2,800 calories, the next day you're at 2,300 calories, the other day you're at 2,400 calories, as long as across 7 days you're within 100 calories on your average of 2,500, you're rocking it, right? You're doing everything. You're on the right track, and that'll give us a good enough data and good enough answer to be like, yes, I'm progressing, I'm moving in the right direction, right? So the goal is 2,500 calories. Excuse me, the goal is on a weekly average basis. So that takes the pressure off having to hit this number every single day. If you have, and this is what I tell my clients too, is like if you have a birthday party, if you have date night, if you have whatever, something where you want to go and celebrate and you want to have a higher amount of calories than recommended target here for your fat loss phase of 2,500 calories, go for it. Like if you eat 3,000 calories again on one day, that's fine. You just got to know you got to sacrifice a little bit somewhere else, right? So you got to go, okay, the next day following, I don't have to hit 2,500 calories. I can eat a little bit less than that. I'm actually really full from the dinner the night before, so that when the dust settles by the end of the week, I'm closer on average across all 7 days to my 2,500 calorie average. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And so let's say we embark on our, I'm just going to separate these so it's not too confusing. Let's say we embark on our fat loss phase for 8 to 12 weeks. Okay. And you're running 2,500 calories. Cool. Now, the next step after you've established your calories is we want to establish a protein target. Again, when we say macros, you don't have to worry about your carbohydrates and your fats, et cetera, all that stuff. Just solely focus on your calorie intake and your protein, and the rest will take care of itself, right? All the studies, data, literature show this. And so to not overwhelm yourself of how many carbs you should be taking, how many fats, yes, we want to be cognizant of it and we want to be conscious and we want to prioritize as much as we can uh single ingredient whole foods, right? That's on the usually on the perimeters of the grocery store, right? The quote unquote healthy foods, right? There's no good and bad foods. That's a whole nother conversation. But generally speaking, foods that have one or two or maybe potentially three ingredients, very little minimal ingredients, usually a single ingredient food, right? Um, Lean meat sources, veggies, fruits, etc. Like we know all those, right? And I'm going to actually give you a meal plan here too for 2,500 calories, right? Matter of fact, what we can do is I will also include this for you. Okay, go into my vault here. Let's see. Sample meal plans. I'll pull you up a 2,500 calorie meal plan here. Boom. So you can have this, right? So I'll send this over to you as well. This has a grocery list. So if I tap grocery list here, it'll take me right to it. I have a bunch, it's 7 different days on here for both breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack that you can use along your journey here, right? And so you can fill in your 2,500 calories with whatever you choose to do, like totally up to you. However, if you just followed this meal plan, great. You'd hit on average 2,500 calories. Like your calories are listed right here, right? Like, and you can click each one of these. If like for breakfast, you're like, what is he talking about? Like what entails of a chocolate peanut protein shake? You can click on it. Boom! It brings up exactly the directions that you need. Exactly what's included. And by the way, this is all in your grocery list too. If you just go up here and you're like, I'm just gonna follow this for, a couple weeks, see how this goes. I'm gonna hit my grocery list. Boom, everything's broken down by category. Okay, so I'll send this over to you so you have access to that. Um, Okay, so we also need to establish a protein target. Generally speaking, if somebody has more than like 50 pounds to lose, 30, 40, 50 plus pounds to use, which in your case you do, you go by your target weight. In your case, it's 175, right? So that's something that I'd have you shoot for would be 175 grams of protein. Now, if when you track your 3,000 calories and we find out that you're under 100 grams of protein, well, the cool thing is like you don't have to jump straight up to 175. Sometimes, and here's a side note, I read ahead a little bit. You also experience IBS, gastritis, colitis, like lactose intolerant, right? So you have some gut issues going on right now. So what I recommend to people is like instead of sometimes if you jump your protein up super quick, it messes with digestion a little bit because you're not used to it, right? Your body's not used to it. So a more gradual process. So let's say hypothetically you're at 100 grams of protein right now, just for the sake of argument. I want you to get closer to that 175, anywhere from zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or in your case, goal body weight is great. And we would progress you up to 175. So from your 100 that you're currently intaking right now, I'd have you shoot for like 120 or 125. And then from there, you're like, okay, cool, solid. I'm hitting 125 grams of protein. My average across 7 days has been 2,500 calories. I'm rocking it. I'm losing on average from zero point 0.5 to 1.5 pounds per week. Sometimes those first initial weeks, you actually lose a lot more. A lot of that's water coming off, right? So a lot of water retention. Um, but that's what I would have you shoot for. So gradually, but and you can boost that up each week, every other week, right? As long as you're hitting your calories, this is king first and foremost, is hitting that 2,500 calorie mark. That's your 15% deficit, right? And then once you get the hang and the rhythm of that, then start including this 175 grams of protein. The cool thing about that meal plan that I have for you as well, those targets are also right around this ballpark as well. So you literally just following that for the first couple times and kind of like hand picking your favorite meals and stuff on there would be optimal for you. Okay. So again, prioritize single ingredient whole foods. I'll also give you a macro cheat sheet. So my recommended food sources, like going grocery shopping and stuff, I'll give you some trainings around that that you can have access to and some resources. But that's the first thing we want to do, right? So you have your calorie target, you have your protein target. We're going to go into a fat loss phase for the next 8 to 12 weeks, which essentially is a caloric deficit at 15%. Cool, right? That's where we start. That's exactly where you start. That's the first part of the plan here. Um, let's read a little bit more into your details. Okay. So now we need a training plan. We need a workout plan, right? We need to, yes, we're primarily doing a fat loss phase right now by putting ourselves in a caloric deficit. We want to lose as little lean body mass as possible. And in order to do that, we need to make sure, A, first and foremost, we're getting enough protein. If you have enough adequate amount of protein and you do it on a consistent basis, the amount of lean body mass or muscle tissue that you'll lose in a caloric deficit is very minimal. If you're not getting enough protein, yes, congratulations, the scale moves faster and it looks cool on the surface, but you're actually losing lean body mass, which is not good. You're losing muscle tissue. We don't want to do that, right? That becomes a whole bag of issues later down the road. Remember, we want to keep muscle tissue because it is it's like metabolic gold, right? Like it literally primes our metabolism. It puts our bodies in a amazing, phenomenal position, and it just enhances everything for us. It puts the cards in our favor, right? So, um, now we need a workout plan for you because in combination with the protein, we also need to resistance train. Although the emphasis is hitting your caloric targets, prioritizing single ingredient whole foods, and losing body fat, yes, we want to maintain and sustain as much muscle so that when we transition into our main focus of building muscle, we already have a good base and foundation in there. So right now, you currently told me you're training 0 days, and this isn't going to be on here, but I know from you messaging me, you told me 0 days that you're currently training. So training program to start. I would recommend whatever you're willing to commit to. This is what I always tell people is like, what are you willing to commit to um, for the rest of your life? That's a good way to approach it. And on a hectic, super hectic, busy, crazy, chaotic week, how many days per week are you willing to train? I recommend to aim for minimum 3, but you don't have to start out there. You could start at 1, you could start at 2. Let's just say, hey, Matt, I can do 3. I can fit that in my schedule. And I know you have full gym access as well. So full gym access, which is what you mentioned right here, right? So you have full gym access. Cool. So we know you have access to all equipment. So I know that from a coaching standpoint, I'm going to program compound lifts as your main movement. And that might not mean anything, but I'll show you. That's essentially bench, squat, deadlift, row, and even like a vertical or overhead press as well, right? So including these. So the reason we reprioritize these at the beginning of your workouts is because they are functional compound movements, meaning that it takes multiple muscle groups together to give us the biggest bang for our buck versus going in and doing like a bicep curl. It's like those aren't bad, those are great. They have their place and I'll program those, but those are more of like an accessory movement, right? We want to focus all of our attention and our energy and on bench, squat, deadlift, row, and vertical presses, or different variations of those too, right? So again, this is all about the needle movers. I'm having you focus on the most important things like that are going to get you leaps and bounds if you were to follow this. Now, I don't know if you're going to follow this, but if you did, I'm only giving you the needle movers that in the next 16 weeks, like you can absolutely crush it. Okay, so full gym access. So I'm going to have you start with 3 times a week, and I'll give you a sample program. Like that would look like, and these would also be full body splits. Why do I do that? Because if we just do a chest day, cool, you did chest on, let's just say your program's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. If you do chest on Monday, you're a little bit sore Tuesday, starting to maybe a little bit more sore on Wednesday. By the time you recover, you're not hitting it again till another 6 days, till next Monday, right? And you absolutely obliterated your chest. So it's like, okay, I'm so sore, like debilitating sore that I can't do anything for the next couple days. It's hard for me to move. It's uncomfortable. It's like, yes, we want to experience soreness, but not to the point where we spend an entire session focused just on that. That's more so when we're advanced. That's fine. There's a time and place for that. But again, these are about the needle movers. So full body splits for you, right? So I'm gonna go, uh, let's do I'd have you do like a back squat. And this is just assuming you have some sort of experience training as well. I just want to throw that out there. What I'm going to do is when I create your program here, I'm going to send you over video demonstrations and little verbal descriptions as well. And you can always shoot me a video if you're not sure if you're moving well, first and foremost. But do these with body weight first, or an empty barbell or an empty piece of equipment or super lightweight. Make sure you're moving well first and foremost. And then like obviously we would go from there. That would come down in like a full, like if you were really in my program, that I have that in my intake form, like I ask all that stuff. But this is just fast accelerated version, right? Like I'd have you go back squat like on Monday with full body accessories. And then I'd have you go a horizontal press, so we can call it a bench on Wednesday, again, followed with full body accessory. And then I'd have you do some sort of pull or row. And I'd probably put your deadlift or a variation of deadlift in your full body accessory. So, which would leave this for a bench over row for your main movement there. Um, Full body accessory with whoops, including deadlift variation so that we're getting all of the compound movements here. So I can create that more as like an accessory lift, like a dumbbell RDL would be a good version there, barbell bent over row. And that would make sure that you're getting everything in here, right? So you're getting your back squat and then full body accessory, making sure we're hitting upper body, lower body, and core would pretty much what I would include in here. That's what I mean by upper, lower, and core, right? And again, I'll send you over some sample workouts that I just don't want to take too much time. I want to make this pretty quick. Measure weight and go by weekly average. Okay. Then we want to establish our maintenance for via reverse. We talked about that. Let's see what else we have. You said you're sedentary, needs a full reset. How would you describe your current nutrition? Okay, cool. Yeah, so it doesn't sound like you're on any current plan or anything right now. Any injuries or limitations? None. Anything else I should know or make this plan work for you? Again, you have diabetes. I'm guessing that's type 2, right? So then we can make some huge groundwork here from the nutritional standpoint and moving your body consistently. And IBS, gastro, it's going to help with all of this, right? So unless this is type 1, that's a little bit slightly different circumstance. Obviously, I'm lactose intolerant as well. So making sure that on that meal plan that I send over, if you do pick and pull some items from there, making sure that what you're going to know what works best for you as well, right? With my clients, what I have them do is tell me very specifics, and then on a week to week basis, we're updating, we're making adjustments as necessary. But you're going to be the best judge on what's digestible and what's does well in your stomach and things like that. You'll notice as you introduce more single ingredient, high quality foods, like those problems and issues will start to subside. You'll be able to curb cravings because you have a protein target now just by eating more fruits and vegetables. Your fiber content's higher, so you're going to have a less likelihood to snack, things like that. Um, but yeah, so I'm trying to think of what else do we need here. Okay, so we have your your exact protocol from a nutritional standpoint. We talked about training. The next thing I want to piggyback off of training here is our total daily energy expenditure. This is outside of workouts, okay? So this is your steps. I don't know what you're currently walking right now, but my target for you would be 8 to 10,000 steps. That for sure is going to help put you in a caloric deficit. Steps is one of the easiest things. It's repeatable. Those of you guys in the Facebook group know that I absolutely love steps. It's one of the most like overlooked things that you can do, and the biggest keys and the biggest needle movers is like literally just walk consistently. Now, if you're like Matt, you mentioned you're sedentary, right? So if you're like Matt, I'm at like 2,000 steps a day. If you're not sure, pop open your health app, right? So it's, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that. A health app is essentially just, it's already on your iPhone. If you have an Android, you can do the Steps app, health app for iPhone. Looks like this, right? So it's a white background with a pink heart on it. You pop that open, it's already been tracking your steps without you even knowing it, right? So if you didn't know you had this app on your phone, you do. It comes stock on it. You open that thing up, it's going to show you your apps. And just like everything else, you have a daily target that we want you to shoot for. That could be more of in a progressive fashion, right? Progressive fashion. Example, if you're at 2K steps, let's bump that this week by 1 to 2K. So 3 to 4K weekly target to start, right? And that's just an example. If you're higher than that, then just add 1 to 2K to what your current average is at. If that puts you in this range of 8 to 10,000 steps, great. If not, you can bump it every week, bi-weekly, like whatever, right? Like you just want to make sure it's doable and you're doing it consistently. Okay, so we got your training program. Again, I'll fill this out completely once I jump off this call. I just don't want to keep making this even longer. And I can repost this once I'm done with it, and I'll hyperlink the video demonstrations on there for you as well, so you can understand in a verbal description of how to perform the movement correctly. And then these are just notes: measure weight and go by weekly average, then establish maintenance via reverse diet. Okay, so let's say, um, again, everything's on weekly averages too, right? So your steps, your calories, your protein targets, all that, your body weight. You can also do a waist measurement, right? So I'll put that in another note is here as well, because this is a good thing to waist measurement at the belly button. Okay. The reason we do it at the belly button is because we know that's not going anywhere, right? A lot of people are inconsistent with where they measure themselves on their body. Just pick a spot that we know is not going to move. And, for most of us, the belly button is one of the simplest things we can do. Soft tape measure, shoelace, and then you can measure the shoelace or a string, right? You can do that as well. You can do this weekly or bi-weekly, but it's a great thing to do because your weight loss, even in a fat loss phase, is never going to be linear. It never just goes completely down like this consistently. When it does, it's awesome. But a lot of times it goes down, then it goes back up, and then it stays stagnant, and then it goes back down, then it goes back up, and then it goes back down even further, right? And so it kind of like looks like the stock market. So when it's frustrating mentally, one of the cool things to have is A, how are your clothes fitting? How are your energy levels? How are you feeling? And then measurements, waist measurements. Those are all cool indicators and data points to help us along our journey, right? And keep us consistent, because one big piece that isn't really talked about here is the mental aspect. Okay, so you're going to have this, meaning longevity is the mindset needed for long-term success, right? If you get discouraged because you keep looking at the scale weight and every day it fluctuates up, then it goes back down, it fluctuates back, and you're riding this emotional roller coaster, there are other data points that we could take. If it's really that bad, just get rid of the scale. Like, we don't even need it, right? I would go strictly by waist measurements, energy levels, sleep, stress, all your other biofeedback, right? Um, and so hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, the mental aspect is huge. So keep the long game mindset. Don't try to hurry to this 175 body weight as fast as you possibly can. And by the way, remember, we want to go from a point 0.5 to 1.5 average. So most likely you're not going to get that on your first time around, right? You could if you extended past and beyond 12 weeks, but I kind of want to chunk that up and remind yourself that there's no rush to this. It's you got to decide when you embark on this journey. It's the most important thing. You have to make a decision. Everybody has to make a decision when they do this, and they have to decide A, if they want to get there fast, which is not going to be sustainable, but if you want to get there fast, cool, you can do that. I don't coach people to do it fast. I coach them to do it for good, right? Or you want to do you want to go far? So do you want to go A fast or do you want to go B far? If you want to go far, follow this protocol. If you want to go fast, this isn't going to be the best plan for you. But if you want it to stick and you want it to be sustainable, this is it. Okay. So let's say you're at the end of 12 weeks and you're like, okay, cool. I need to build back up and establish my new maintenance. Let's say at the end of 12 weeks, you dropped down to from what were you at 230? Let's say you dropped down, you were like really doing it and you dropped down 20 pounds, right? Okay, cool. So let's come back in here. You're 26 male, 20 pounds. So now you're 210, 510, recalculate. Cool. Now you have some new numbers. Now we can go, okay, he's sedentary, but he's also walking now. He's built up to about 8 to 10,000 steps. So let's take the average between two here. So we know that your new maintenance with your new body metrics, your new body weight here, you have less body fat on you. You've been consistent with your resistance training. You have more muscle tissue on you. Now you're going to have a different energy intake, right? So you're going to be anywhere from 2,300 to let's call it 2,600, right? So then you're going to want to build to that. Okay, let me scroll down. Um, okay, so here we got your steps. Okay, then we want to, let's say we've reached 12 weeks, and now time to run a reverse. In my program, we call this a phase three or post season, the diet after the diet, right? In season is the diet or the fat loss phase. Post season is our reverse diet where we're building up and reboosting our fuel and energy. So now you're going to add 100 to 200 calories per week. Again, if you want to go far, the slower, the better. This could be bi-weekly too, right? Until you've reached somewhere in the ballpark of 2,300 to what do we say, 2,600 from your new calculations that we did, right? Again, those are ballpark numbers. The reason there's that range is because we don't know until you actually get there, and that's how you feel. I'm also going off hypothetically that you lost 20 pounds, right? Like, I don't know. We don't know until you go through this, but hopefully these examples are helping you on the direction that I would kind of guide you and nudge you in. And so being hyper aware of your caloric intake and remembering that this is your energy, this is your gasoline, this is your fuel. Um, it will take you out of a caloric deficit, but we want to do so gradually. We want our body to adjust gradually. It will adapt, and the more gradual, the better, right? We don't want to just go from you being in a caloric deficit and then all of a sudden skyrocketing back up, right? So before your maintenance was at 3,000 calories, you have a new body, you have less body fat, you have more muscle tissue on you right now. You might get, here's what happens too. You might be at that 20, what we say, 2,500 calories, right? So this should actually be a little bit higher. I'd have you go 26, right? Plus, we'll just call it 2,600 plus. I'd have you go 2,600 calories the first week. See how you feel. Pay attention to your waist measurements and your body weight. We don't want any huge regressive spikes. If it is, run another week at 2,600. Sometimes what you find is when you gradually increase your calories, your body adapts and it likes it really well and it actually starts losing weight again. So then that gives you enough room to boom, you can bump your calories up again. So then you could go 2,700 calories to 2,800 calories, right? And you're like, holy crap, I'm getting back to 3,000 calories. Yeah, you're doing that with a brand new body, with a brand new body recomposition, right? Which is what your goal was. You have less body fat and more muscle tissue because you've been consistent with your 3 times a week doing your full body workouts, right? So, yes, you will be able to eat the same amount of energy and fuel and have more muscle on you and have less body fat and have a brand new body. And you get to repeat this process over and over and over. I would run the rest of that. Again, the longer you stay and establish this maintenance and feel really good at, your next stage is to go into your muscle building phase, right? And this would mean we're going to add 10% cals to your new established maintenance, right? So we don't know what that is until you, but let's just say hypothetically it's 2,800, right? Let's say you got to 2,800. You're like, I feel amazing. I feel energized. My weight fluctuated up a little bit, but nothing crazy. But most of all, I have way less body fat on me. I have more muscle tissue on me and I'm feeling phenomenal. My clothes are fitting way differently. Okay, cool. Those are all phenomenal wins. We want to transition to a muscle building phase right now where we give your body more fuel. The more food and fuel you have, the easier it is to build muscle tissue flat out, right? When you're in a caloric deficit, it's a form of stress on our body. We're not stacking the cards in our favor to build muscle tissue. It's very expensive tissue. What I mean by that is it needs enough food, it needs enough calories, it needs a surplus to be able to do so consistently and adequately, being able to recover, being able to replenish, being able to maximize, like all those things are super important and they require a higher amount of food, a higher amount of fuel. That's why it's very difficult to lose body fat and build muscle. Is it impossible? No. Is it very popular to do for newbies? Yeah, absolutely. Um, However, the more advanced you get, focusing on one phase at a time is going to allow you to optimize so that you're not just like kind of gray or like mediocre and like I'm kind of doing this but I'm also kind of doing that and so my results are kind of just gray, right? You want to hammer each that. I break my program down into three phases. We do a Phase one is our preseason. That's basically getting the fundamentals, the habits down, establishing caloric intake, hitting your protein targets, sleep, doing all the fundamentals. Phase two is our in season, which is our fat loss phase. Exactly what we did here with you, where we put you in a 15% caloric deficit from your new established maintenance. Bam, we hit the end of that. Then we reverse out. We hit phase three, which is our postseason. We gradually increase our calories to establish our new maintenance now with our new body. We have less body fat, more muscle tissue. And then from there, you can choose whatever you want to do. If you want to stay at maintenance and just maintain for a while, great. If you don't necessarily want to boost your calories up and focus on a muscle building phase, that's fine too. I recommend you do, but that's kind of just up to the individual and where they're at in their journey. So, um, I will add some more specifics to this, but I don't want this video to go super long. I know it's already long because I can just talk forever about this stuff, but hopefully this is helpful for everybody else as well. Just break down your season. I broke this specifically down for Eric so you can see exactly where he's at in his journey, where I would take him, where I would guide him. And by the way, Eric, you would have 24/7 access to me to be able to ask questions because you're going to face speed bumps along the process. This is why I give out all the information's free, right? Like everybody can get information. Everybody can get a program. Everybody can get nutritional advice. Everybody, the likelihood of people following through without somebody holding them accountable to it is very low unless you're just an absolute savage, right? Like, and there are people that will do that. That's why I wanted to create this for you guys so that you can get the information for yourself. And if you do have the ability to do it on your own, I want you to go crush it. And I want you to come back and tell me like, Matt, based on your video and the recommended steps that you made for Eric, I followed and I did based on my numbers accordingly and ran my numbers and it worked. Because if you follow it, it will, right? And so that's what I hope everybody does. But honestly, transparently, there will be people that try to follow this and they raise their hand and go, it works and I'm doing it, but I have questions, right? So that's where the implementation and that's where coaching comes into. So I just said the word question and then my hand raised on there. I don't know if you guys saw that, but hand down. I guess that doesn't work. But anyways, I'm going to stop this recording. Eric, I'm going to send you over a copy of this, give you everything that you need. Everybody else, hopefully this was helpful. I'd love to do it for somebody else. So if you wanted to volunteer yourself up and you don't mind sharing your information and your goals and your targets and your current state and where you're at, maybe I'll do another one if you guys like this. I'll try to put a timer on me and make them shorter. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. You guys rock. Continue to start sloppy. It's a mindset. It's not just a one-time thing. It's each and every single day. So you guys enjoy yourself. I'm here for you. As always, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask questions. That's what I'm here for.